Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered HR here at the Hansa podcast studio today. Always mixing up locations and making stuff work with all this tech set up. So we made it.
Yeah.
It's a struggle every time. Today we continue the small business owner and employer spotlight series. And I have with me Angie. Angie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I own Half Baked Cookies. We have 3 locations now and continuing to grow. I started it out of my kitchen, so it's very humble beginnings. People sometimes think we're a franchise, which is kind of like a little bit of a compliment, but a little bit like, no, we're not. This is, just a small town operation kind of thing going on.
You've done a good job with your branding if they think it's like professional franchising.
Good, right? That's what we do, and we make cookies. We make really delicious big cookies, and that's our niche, and we stick to it. So I have almost 50 employees, mostly part-time, and so far so good.
Yeah, and you're like in the hospitality realm, which I think is, if anyone is listening is in that space, it's like a special, I don't know. You would all agree, probably a special like layer of hell in the employment world and in the business world. Margins are razor thin, and it's usually a pretty like tumultuous workforce, a lot of turnover, interesting group. So how has that been for you in your experience as a business owner and employer, and what has your experience been like with that in hospitality?
So for our first location was in Lockport. We had like zero issue. Our team was awesome and still is awesome and like dedicated, and it's like small town, so everybody kind of knows everybody, and like that might play a part in like the loyalty of the staff. But like no issues, just awesome. Like people envied the situation I had going on and still do with staffing there. Then we opened Williamsville. Again, was like really good situation, still is. We had trouble in the beginning, just getting people to apply and then showing up for their interviews. That seems to be just like the thing to do these days.
Yeah, it's a common problem. Yeah.
It's crazy. But once we got started and people came in and saw like what it was like in there, they started applying, and we got like a really good team built, which we still have today. And then we opened Elmwood this year, and kind of a different situation. We had a lot of turnover in the beginning, which is unfortunate, but just a lot more issues with people not showing up.
Yeah, different demographic of employee. Yeah.
And calling off their shifts, or just not, there's no call, no showing, or anything like that. That was happening. So we kind of like weeded out what wasn't working, and we're trying to like build off of what is working, and it seems to be going well now. There's still like issues that need to be worked on, but different area, different problems, but all of it is like such a learning experience that it's good, and it helps me see like where we should go in the future, and what issues to expect in different places,
different markets. Yeah. So when you started the business, you obviously, the original location is in your hometown community. What's the township technically?
I live in Gasport, so it's technically starting in Gasport out of my house, but then our first location's in Lockport.
Okay.
Town of Lockport, so it's like around the edges. It's like there's no other businesses on that street really. There's a burger place next door, and then there's a park across the street. So starting there and like seeing the success we had.
And what was your goal? Like first of all, we didn't really explain the business. It's cookies. They're delicious. You have ice cream now in there. So was it to provide like a great warm cookie product for the community?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, goal wise, like sales, I just wanted to like pay the bills. I wanted it to just keep me busy enough to like not have to go to work a 9 to 5 basically. and like enough so that I wasn't like gonna have to file bankruptcy. So
and then you find out it's like way more than 9 to 5.
Oh yeah, totally way more than 9 to 5. But very flexible, which is super important to me because I have 3 little kids. When I opened, I had a 6-month-old when I opened Lockport, and then I had another baby like 20 months after she was born. So, and then I have an 8-year-old too now. So, um, yeah, like every year it's like new baby, new shot,
Mhm.
new baby. Which is it gonna be?
They're all just different
Yeah,
babies. Yeah.
yeah.
How
So
did you like how did when did you kind of like realize that being like an employer would be a part of the equation of being a small business owner, and how has that like toggled for priority, and also maybe even just like how you see yourself as a member of the community and something else that you provide, and like tell me about the evolution of that
yeah.
realization.
So when I That's a great question. I've never like thought about it, but it is like the biggest part of being a business owner. Like if for me, like your team is everything. Like without them, there's nothing. So when I was first hiring for that location, it was like summer. It was like late spring of 2021,
Mhm.
which was like end of lockdown and
Oh, okay, yeah.
COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember just like I had an Instagram because I had the home kitchen. So I posted it just on Instagram. People emailed me their resumes. I think I hired everybody that applied. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I hired maybe like 9, and there was a couple more. I'm like, I better just hire them. Just we don't know what this is gonna happen. What's gonna happen with this? So I hired the other two, and but yeah, I just did phone interviews. I was like not trying to make anybody uncomfortable with COVID and whatever. And yeah, everybody like I had a list of questions handwritten out, tried to keep it consistent, which is like my worst thing is just like consistency in my behaviors and actions and
Yeah.
things like that. But I just like hand wrote out their answers and everyone got hired. So it was like,
Hmm. How did that
great job.
go? How did that
It
go?
was fine. It was great.
No, like terrible, awful mistakes in the.
No, there was, I mean, there was people that like didn't work out,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like day one, like, oh my God, why is this person here?
Hmm.
It was like over time, it's like, this isn't probably going to work out, or they moved on, or what, whatever. We still have a few that we had from the beginning, but these are mostly like high school and college students. So, like they grow and get
Hmm.
like professional jobs and
Yeah, a little bit different of
yeah,
a
go off to college.
feel.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. They're not like necessarily looking to hang around a long time, which
totally.
I'm sure is changes your approach or makes you have a much different approach to employment and hiring than even and expectation wise,
Yeah,
and compared to some of the other businesses that we've had on, which is like longer term career positions and that kind of thing.
yeah,
Although you do have some of those too in the management of your stores and the bakers and things like that.
yeah.
Um, so I guess, this started, what is the year now? It's almost 2025. So almost 5 years ago, you've been hiring in that time. You've been, unfortunately having to, I'm sure, to let people go in that time. And we've done that. So I know you've done that. What is like one of the biggest lessons that you've learned, as, on the employer side of being a
Yeah.
business owner in that time?
Oh my gosh, I'm still learning every single day. Like just finding the balance between like my expectations, which are very high, and people's abilities, and not getting hyper. This is like my latest lesson, not getting hyper focused on what my expectations are and if those are being met, but like also looking at the person's strengths and seeing what they're bringing to the table outside of like my possibly tunnel vision of what my expectations are.
Yeah.
That's been like my latest lesson, which like I'm always learning, and you and I talked the other day about like the empathy,
Mm.
and like if you're a seasoned therapy patient, then you have an easier time, which I am, seeing the interactions between you and your team, and just like what your issues are and with them,
Yeah,
and then
applying like a
seeing,
more human perspective to
yeah,
them as employees.
right, and
Yeah,
then seeing
yeah,
like, oh, that's my issue with them, and that's probably my issue with me too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just like those things, it's like such a learning experience. And if you're a business owner and you have employees and you don't look at it that way, like you're missing a huge like personal growth opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's something that I try to keep doing. But it's a roller coaster. Like some days you feel like you're doing a great job, and other days you're like, wow, I'm really not.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah,
Yeah,
we all
really,
definitely
yeah,
have that.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's been a theme on this, at least a couple of the episodes with, small business owners and employers that I've spoken to, and I see with my clients too. It's like this constant um, push and pull between understanding like where to be more empathetic and where to maybe lend some, I don't want to say sympathy, but because I don't think that's really appropriate, but more empathy to people and where to cut them some slack and give them opportunity, but then also knowing like when it's time to pull the cord and when someone just doesn't get it and isn't going to improve. And because you have to do that ultimately. You can't endlessly invest in a person for your own time and sanity's sake, but also the business's sake.
Yeah.
So
I've done that several times, and I think like every time I see that somebody's just like truly not a good fit, I act a little sooner than I would have in the past. Like the first person that wasn't a good fit, like they lasted like almost a year, and like
yeah.
you knew like pretty early on. And this isn't just like front of house position that there's more turnover with, and this is like like your baker positions and your manager positions that like you have to have a little more trust in. But yeah, the first one, like it really dragged out, and like you lose sleep over it. It's not like you go in, it's like, oh, this person's frustrating to work with or not getting done what they need to get done.
Yeah.
It's like keeps you up at night.
Yeah. And your gut probably gets better over time and like really understanding when it
Yeah.
is going to work and not. Yeah.
Realizing that people don't too much.
They can. I mean, right. I mean, I was saying this the other day. I mean, I don't know what the statistic is. It's probably like, if you put an employee on a warning or a performance improvement plan, it's probably like maybe 10% of the time they'll actually improve, and that it just becomes a piece of paper in their file that you never talk about or address again. But yeah, a lot of the time it's not, and maybe that's too harsh of a stat. I don't know. But in my experience, it's not too often. But also, I don't know, it's probably like relationships. It's timing, right? So maybe they don't learn the lesson with you, but then they go somewhere else and the same thing happens. And then the third time they get coached at an employer, their third employer, maybe then they realize like, wow, maybe the problem is me, not the job or the leader,
Yeah, I think it's like just that timing of, like you get to them when they're like ready to hear whatever they need to be told.
Right.
Or, whatever they need to be.
Yeah, it's probably timing, like the right person, like does your leadership style like really resonate with the person and where they are at their life? Yeah. I mean, that is one, I think, cool. And I experience it in the work that I do too. I don't have employees, but I have clients, which end up kind of being like people that I coach. And you definitely grow so much as a person and learn a lot about yourself and helping others learn too. So that's cool. So if you had to pick like one tip or lesson that you could give like a small business employer or employer in general, maybe just starting out, what would it be?
Clear expectations. That's something that I still struggle with, and I expect people to just like read my mind. But if you set those expectations, and every time I have to replace somebody in whatever position, I get more clear on my expectations. And that's like right from the get go, like in the job post, in the interview process, maybe multiple times, and then like during the onboarding, reiterating what your expectations are. It just makes it so much easier down the road when you have to confront them about something, or hopefully those expectations prevent you from having to have those conversations. Is really like my goal, because I don't like confrontation at all. And if I can avoid that, like this is the way I have found to avoid that.
Yeah. And like, do you do regular one-on-ones with your staff?
Yeah,
you do, right?
With my managers, I do quarterly check-ins.
Yeah, and that's a good idea to have like regular check-ins to revisit those expectations and reinforce them. And that's something I've been working with my clients on a lot now too, is, not just defining the expectations, but let's make sure, whether it's a quarterly review or an annual review, and also people just like want to know how they're doing, and what they do matters every day. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I do my check-ins, I'm like maybe selfish about it in that like not selfish because nobody really gives me a ton of feedback, which I wish they would, but I think that's just like a natural,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be like, hey, boss, you're really terrible at this.
There's a
But
bit of conflict of interest there.
yeah, totally. But I like leave that window like wide open, like, please, if there's something I can do or stop doing or, continue doing, like, please let me know because I want to be better for you, for my business. It's,
Mm-hmm.
like it's for my benefit. Um, and yeah, again, like nobody, I get like a little bit here and there, and I'm like, I like grasp onto it, like, great, I'll work on this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Do you have a particularly like rewarding story or a story that's positive that stands out to you about
Yeah.
being an employer? Because I mean, the whole point of doing this little spotlight series outside of the normal programming of Unfiltered HR, which is just like updating people on employment law, which is so exciting, is to really, highlight what I believe is like a superhero aspect of being an employer, especially in a small community where you're providing people with, jobs, opportunities, and, obviously money to feed their families and different things, learning opportunities. But yeah, but then just as an employer, you have such an opportunity like a coach or a parent or something to really like help people develop and give them feedback and hold them accountable, which is also really great for them because it allows them to develop, people being honest with them. So do you have any stories
Yeah, I
that,
do. I
yeah.
share this one all the time with people. So when I was doing those first interviews, I remember like sitting in my car outside of my shop in Lockport, like just going through my list, pen and paper, writing down responses to answer or to questions for interviewing. There was one person that was like very quiet, very just like you asked them something, it was like they tried to make it like a one word answer and it like wasn't that kind of questions.
Working, yeah.
Yeah. Just like really to the point, which, like this is an interview for a customer service position.
Mm.
Like show, like I want to hear your smile through the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not. So again though, I like had hired everybody who applied and I interviewed. So this person got hired and just very shy, very quiet, very like in your own little bubble type of person. But like so that was her personality. So like my perspective at that time was like, no, we need like loud, bubbly people,
Mm.
that's what's gonna like make this shop great.
Mm-hmm.
What I know now that like you need a balance of all different
Yeah.
types of people. That's what makes a shop great. But anyways, she was just like that from the start. So like that was my first impression of her. That's kind of how I treated her. So I'm like, oh yeah, like when I'm making the schedule, like maybe I'm not gonna put her on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, like fast forward like a few months. Here's like one quick story. She like at one point somebody, I don't know if they called her, were in the shop and they asked a question. And she came back to me and she's like, somebody just asked, I can't remember the question, this question, what do I say? And I'm like, relax.
They were like on hold on the
It's
phone.
okay. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like the smallest, like most
Yeah.
insignificant question that like you could have just said whatever to. Or that they wanted something and it was like just get it to them. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like just the insecurity around
Yeah.
that. And then like fast forward 6 months and like she was still around. She was just like I remember we were in my office and there was like a little hole in the where the floor met the wall. She's like, oh my God, there's a little hole, like a mouse is gonna get in. And she like grabbed the nearest thing she could find, like, I don't know, like caulking stuff and like just like filled it in. I'm like, where did this confidence come? Like she just like the
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
And it like just stupid thing like that. But you could just see her like blossoming
Yeah.
and like gaining confidence and just turned like she's now I don't want to give out like too much information, but like she's one of our top people now.
Mm.
And she's just like amazing and gets stuff done and
Yeah.
to see where she started and where she is now is just incredible. It like warms my heart. She's been there since day one.
Yeah.
And she's
That's so
a
nice.
great
Yeah.
girl.
And I think like, like you said, I think and this is like probably over time you develop this and everyone does. You just learn, maybe things aren't maybe the best personality traits or the best fit traits aren't like extremely overtly or explicitly shown in an interview. And that's like
Yeah.
you develop a gut or really um just a better intelligence to ask different questions to really get to the heart of, would this person be a great employee?
Yeah.
And it's not always the loudest people or the most overtly like bubbly people.
Yeah.
And sounds like she's also just a person that cares a ton about the job,
Just
which is
takes
great.
lead.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've got such amazing people. They just impress me every day with
Yeah.
just themselves. They're all like so smart, just awesome girls.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the interview process, like you've helped me with that a lot in our last round of interviews, and just like seeing the questions you ask and just observing you with those things, it's like taught me so much. And I'm like, I would never have asked that question, but I can like, without even knowing, I can see where you're without knowing ahead of time, I can like see you ask the question and I'm like, what? And then I like see where it's going. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, getting people just to reveal themselves,
Right.
really. Yeah. Good, bad, and ugly. Yeah. Oh, that's great. All right. Well, I think that you are awesome and that you're a superhero. And very happy that we crossed paths. And it's been a pleasure working with you. And you're a badass, also a badass woman, like running a business. So that's always great. So I think you're a superhero already. But if you were to be able to be a fictional superhero and have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
I don't know what it's called, but like the ability to multiply myself and be in like 4 places at once.
Okay.
Very convenient for me.
Very entrepreneurial of you.
Yeah. I mean, just like having kids is, I mean, it's a full-time job, and then to have 3 locations is another possibly 3 full-time jobs. So there's just really not enough time in the day. And I try to like I trust my team so much, and I hire with like that being the expectation that I need people who can be autonomous and
reliable.
And the like, you're getting into this position, and like you already have my trust because I need to trust you, or else like it's just not going to work. And then like it's up to you to keep that trust.
Yeah.
So that was something too that like in the beginning, like I wanted hands on everything. Or if somebody had an opinion, I was like, yeah, cool, but and I still struggle with this too because I'm like, guys, give me your opinions, and then they give me, I'm like, we're gonna go with my idea.
It's your baby. Yeah.
No, I try to include everybody in everything, and like everybody jumps in, and like people always ask how we come up with our flavors, and like it's everybody, it's all of us. But that's like our number.
How do you
but
pick
it's such like a team.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to, like, I think that I see that with clients all the time as well. It's like you have to give to get, and you, especially, as you've expanded to different locations and you're living up in Gasport, which is far away from like the Elmwood Village where your newest location is, like you have to be able to trust people, and people have to be able to trust you too, and that they're not going to be micromanaged and things because they're not going to want to do the job. So really like being able to delegate true authority and trust, I'm sure has been key for you. And it's a theme I see a lot with my clients because a lot of them really struggle to do it. And then you're not, even if you find that great hire and that great person who wants to have ownership and like accomplish things, they're not going to stick around if you're not letting them do that. And so I think that's such an important and significant like tipping point and growth point for any leader to have to get over. And many don't. And so their business struggles and they end up having to sell, or it just doesn't, it's kind of, it's the most growth inhibiting factor, I would say.
Yeah. I struggled with that a ton in the beginning. And then I was pregnant with my 3rd baby, and I'm like,
it forced you to have to. Yeah.
I remember I like bought a coaching program. I'm like, I got to figure out how to like get this thing systematized so that I can just trust what's going on. And it was like such a being pregnant and knowing that like I was gonna, have to take a week off.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I got like 3 days without anybody calling me.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was what forced me, and I'm like so grateful for that because I don't know where I'd be if I don't even know if it would still exist. I think I would have been still like hanging on to that control so tightly. But again, like we have such great people that to not trust them is just like you have a huge ego. If you can't trust these awesome people, like, just forget it.
That's what it is a lot of the time. Yeah. But it's good that you had a reason I guess all of us have these situations where we get forced into
Yeah.
learning lessons, and like you had a reason to have to force yourself to trust whether you wanted to or not, and then that proved kind of like proof of concept for you to be able to do it. Yeah, great. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Congrats. And everyone, if you need cookies this holiday season or just any time, definitely check out the locations, especially the Elmwood Village location on the block that's kind of like developing with some other new
Yeah.
businesses in the area.
I've
So,
been coming for sure. It's all the shops are super cozy for Christmas.
yeah,
And Christmas music is going, and yeah,
nice
so
warm
it'll be handy.
cookies in cold winter. Although, yeah,
Yeah.
we have no snow here.
Mhm. Yeah, we've been trying to focus on our like business to business and offering trays and corporate
Mhm.
gifting options and things like that. So
Oh, that's great
we've
too.
got you
Yeah. So if
covered.
you're a business and you're having a holiday party or just, need gift ideas for clients or whomever, yeah,
Yeah.
good idea. All right. Well, thanks so much, Angie.
Yeah,
Congrats
thank
on the
you.
business. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll see everybody next time.